Good morning to everyone. I stand here as someone who has not had international education. I went to a college in Delhi University and then I did my post graduation. And I think I paid 10 cents as fees every month in undergraduate. And when I did my post graduation, I got a scholarship. So I studied free in the Indian public education system. And it was not that I couldn't pay, but the system didn't allow me to pay. And I think that is one of the banes of Indian education, that it is so cheap and therefore the quality is patchy and indifferent. I speak here as a person who is not in the education business. I've never taught and I don't run a university. But I am in some way connected with the process of internationalization. When I'm in the ministry in external affairs in India, or when I'm posted abroad, students and education form a very important part of our diplomatic footprint or our diplomatic exercise of basically bringing countries together. One cannot overemphasize the importance of mobility of students, of faculty, of professors, or of the whole education importance, the role it plays in bringing countries and peoples together. Because we need to examine education from a larger perspective of migration and mobility. People want international education, of course, for the quality of education, but also for career prospects, for making some important life decisions. And I think you people, educationists or people in the education business, do not realize the importance of or the role that you play in these life decisions. I will try to get into some detail of what is this exchange that is taking place. I think the speaker from Niti Aayog mentioned some numbers. I will just take you through those numbers once again, because it's very important to highlight those numbers and bring to the fore that this current model of international education for India is not sustainable. It is going to change. There are strong tailwinds for change. There are strong headwinds against continuing this. And the speakers mentioned the new education policy. There is something else which is playing out very strongly in India, which is Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is that India needs to be self-reliant. India needs to be self-reliant in technology. India needs to be self-reliant in education. This model of large number of Indian students going abroad to study is not sustainable, because we have become the largest country in the world. Hundreds of millions of students will need education, and how much can we pay and send our students abroad? It also creates issues for foreign countries, for foreign governments. There are migration issues, there are consular issues, there are visa issues, and I will get into the visa issues later in the panel discussion perhaps. But this one-way traffic of students going abroad needs to change, and we need to find ways and means of changing this narrative. The data that I have was given in Parliament, so this is very, very authentic data. In 2017, 454,000 Indian students went abroad. It declined to 259,000 in 2020 because of COVID. But you see the rebound. In 2021, it was 444,000. And last year, 2022, it went up to 750,000. So almost 750,000 people went abroad to study. And Dr. Shaw mentioned the top countries: USA, Canada, Australia, Germany. But interestingly, I have a very interesting data point, which is that 13,000 students went to Bangladesh. 13,000 Indian students went to Bangladesh. Now, we received students from Bangladesh, 17,000, I'm sorry. In 2022, 17,000 Indian students went to Bangladesh. Now, this is not widely known. Can anyone guess why this number for Bangladesh? What kind of education people went for? Can anyone guess? Medical education. Medical education. So, 17,000 students going to Bangladesh for medical education says something about our capacities. We have I am in government, so it's not proper for me to criticize my government in the past at least, that we have not built the capacities. We have these islands of excellence in IITs and IIMs and higher education institutes. But quality education for a common student is not available. And what they do, they then look to go abroad, and they go to the former Soviet space. They go to Bangladesh. They go wherever they can get education, they are going. When the Ukraine crisis erupted, the major task of my ministry was to evacuate 22,000 Indian students from Ukraine. So, in fact, I was going to even students have gone to Afghanistan for education. So, I think this is the challenge that our new education policy faces. This is the challenge that all of us who are in the education space face, that how we can give quality education at affordable price to Indians in India. Because that is where the future lies. Because billions of dollars cannot be pumped out of the country to give expensive education to future Indians in foreign universities. So we have to look at internationalization. There are many models of internationalization. I think the new education policy, brings forth many models of internationalization. Wherever I have served, I have pushed universities to come to India to do tie-ups. But again, there's a challenge there. Foreign universities are tying up with only some universities. So, I don't want to name the universities, at least the vice chancellors of one university was on the panel. So, we have multiple tie-ups with one university. All universities in the world want to tie up with ABC university. They don't want to venture out of the comfort zone. They don't want to go to hinterland in India. Because what I want to say is that unless you do that, unless you work with the tier B universities, those people will never get quality improvement. They will never be quality curriculum development. And, this challenge of trying to restrict yourself to only the 8-tier universities will continue. So that is one point which I want to make. Also, we have to look at various models of internationalization. Adam mentioned that study abroad programs. Now, study abroad programs are a good way of internationalization, but it is too less. There are not many Indian universities or institutions who can adopt or accept foreign students, and it is basically done at the initiative of companies or organizations like Sanam, for example, who bring students. But there is no systematic approach towards study abroad program. We can also look at. We don't need to look at brick and mortar universities. I'll give you one or two examples. For instance, we are working with France. I deal with West Europe, so I deal with France, UK, Germany, Netherlands, and I'll come to those countries later on. But with France, there is a program we are running called Campus France. What Campus France does is, they have not built a brick and mortar university in India. What they do is that they have tied up with several universities in India, and they are running programs with those universities and giving dual degrees. So the French sitting in France are running programs with Indian universities. I think this Campus France model is a very sustainable model. It allows cross-pollination of ideas and students and faculty, and it is a low-cost, high dividend intervention, which I think all of you could look at. Also, COVID has shown us that we can work from home, we can study from home, and we can divide the time between virtual and in-person learning, and that works to the advantage of not only the students but cuts down costs. So unless we look at very, very drastic methods of cutting costs of education, of international education, I think we will be hitting a wall. I would also give an example that Indian educational institutions are also venturing out. We have just now, last week, launched 2 universities in Africa. One is IIT Madras in Tanzania, and a campus of the Indian University of Forensic Science in Uganda. So Indian universities are also going abroad, and they are looking at several models of working abroad, because I believe that India has some of these capacities, because Dr. Shaw mentioned almost 50,000 students coming to India to study. So they must be getting some value for money somewhere, and I think if we can leverage that, we can open universities and institutions abroad. One last point which I would like to make is that we are also watching an interesting trend in Indian students going abroad. We found in the beginning that people would traditionally be going to the United States, Canada, Australia has come up in the recent years. But in Europe, I find that the number of students going to Germany has increased dramatically. The students going to Netherlands has increased dramatically. Even France, because these were not traditional destination for Indian students. But when these countries have moved towards education in English or English language education, I am seeing that even students are going to Italy, to France, to Spain, and some of the non-English speaking countries, including Czech Republic. So this is a new phenomena which we are observing, because traditional markets or destinations for Indian students have become very expensive, and also the visa processes have become difficult. But a contrary view here is that, for instance, we find a dramatic increase in the number of students going to the UK. Now, we did some analysis and we found that the United Kingdom changed its visa policy. It allowed post-study visa. So you could finish education in a UK university, and then you were entitled to a post-study visa to work in UK. That has had an amazing effect on students going to UK. So again, Canada allows easy post-study job opportunities. So we find a greater trend towards Canada, and I think the United States has visa issues. So you will find changes there. But again, Germany is one good example where the visa policies are liberal, so it is attracting Indian students. We should remember that students represent healthy, legal migration, and migration is a phenomena which will be there. You cannot stop migration. If you do not allow legal migration, migration will happen illegally. So I think you and us represent the very healthy aspect of migration. Students, when they go abroad, they represent the very best of a country. We all know the talent deficit that is there in Europe, in America, in Australia. So you need technical or qualified people. Not only that, I am seeing, at least in Europe now, what happened in the Gulf is happening in Europe. There are no qualified or skilled workmen. So we are now entering into migration agreements with countries like Portugal, Italy, where we will be required to send workmen. And as Dr. Shaw mentioned, India has become the largest country in the world, I think yesterday. So, we will have a lot of people who need employment, and if the visa policies are liberal, if people have surety and guarantee that, when they go abroad and they come back to India, they will again get a chance, or, they will be re-employed. I think it will solve some of these problems that migration brings, and also deal with the issue of illegal migration. So what I want to say is that there are two trends we are observing. One is internationalization in terms of Indian students going abroad. But I think the current government policy, the NEP, and the effort of government of India is to bring internationalization to Indian students in India. And to the extent that all of you can contribute to that, I think you will find a very, very welcome and very friendly ecosystem which will allow that. I want to compliment the Ministry of Education and UGC for coming up with the guidelines on opening of foreign campuses in India. Those have been well received. We also got a lot of comments and feedback from various universities, and particularly I will not be able to take a name, but I have pushed at least one university from Italy to open their campus in India, and I'll give you a small data point. They have in their campus in Italy every year 1,000 Indian students, and the cost of education there is 100,000 euros per year. So you can imagine the outflow that is taking place, and it's a 3-year program, so they have 3,000 Indian students in that institute. And they said that they will come and open their campus in India, and it will become an Indo-Pacific campus, for instance. They will then attract students from other parts of Asia and Indo-Pacific region to come and study in their campus, which they want to set up outside Delhi. So if you come to India, if you open campus, whether brick and mortar or virtually, I think there will be a lot of demand, not only from India, but also from the region of students who want to come and study in international standard universities or institutes in India. I will end by saying that our Ministry of External Affairs is very much for internationalization. In fact, I think we are the only Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the world which runs 2 universities. So the Nalanda University, the new Nalanda University, and the South Asian University are universities which have been set up by the Ministry of External Affairs, because we, some years back felt that India needs international universities, and we have made an effort, and these universities have now grown and become centers of excellence. So with these words, I painted a broad picture. I painted a picture which comes from my own experience of dealing with these issues in my job as Joint Secretary for West Europe. But you may find a little bit of lack of coherence in what I'm saying, but because I am not in this education sector, I may have lacked coherence. But what I wanted to say is that, I clearly see that after the new education policy, the government is clearly focused on setting up or internationalization of education in India at home, and there will be less incentives for people going abroad. So I would encourage foreigners who have come or people from abroad who have come here to look at how they can give quality education to Indians in India. Thank you very much.